channel. Today I am really excited to share with you my final pregnancy update. This is for weeks 36 to 40, I believe. As you probably already know, especially if you follow any of my social media or my vlog channel, I am no longer pregnant. In fact, I am actually 1 month postpartum, and I have little Stella Belle sitting right next to me in a bouncer, so hopefully she can cooperate while I film this video. I did take some notes during the last 4 weeks of my pregnancy because I knew I'd be wanting to film this video, and so I have them all jotted down here to share with you guys today. And yeah, I'm gonna jump right into it because little baby girl is happy, and hopefully I can finish filming this video while she stays content in her bouncer. All right, so I'm gonna start when I was 36 weeks and 2 days, and that is when I went in for my 36-week appointment, as well as a growth sonogram. My OB and midwife's office just does a regular growth sonogram at 36 weeks to see how baby is doing. And she was estimated at that point to be 6 pounds and 4 ounces. And I actually did ask the ultrasound technician how accurate that was, because I had heard that ultrasound weight estimations can kind of vary within a whole pound either way, which is a very big range. And so I was just curious to see how accurate that guess was. And the tech seemed pretty confident in her guess. She said that sometimes it can obviously vary because they don't have an exact science to guess how big the baby is, but that she had been pretty confident in the measurements that she had gotten during our ultrasound, because normally when they're off, the baby is like way far down in the pelvis or something, so they're not able to get good measurements to estimate, but she was pretty confident in that estimation. So at that point, my husband and I actually kind of tried to guesstimate how big she would be at each week, depending on, you know, when she'd be born and the average weight gain for babies at that month, or at that point, which I believe was half a pound a week. So yeah, we kind of tried to guess how big she would be, and then also made bets between ourselves how big we thought, you know, when she would come and how big we thought she'd be when she did come. So that was pretty fun. I actually ended up being accurate about, so not the first guess I made, but then when we each passed our first guess, we made a second guess, and I was totally right about the date that she would come on with my second guess. I guessed her birthday, so I'm pretty proud of that. But also after the growth sonogram, I did have a regular OB appointment with my midwife, or no, I think it was with one of the OBs in the office at that point. They kind of rotated us through in the 3rd trimester so that we would know all the doctors in that office, and because they rotated who would deliver you based on, you know, who was on call, and so they wanted to make sure that you had a chance to meet every doctor. So anyways, at that appointment at 36 weeks and 2 days, I was 1 centimeter dilated and 50% effaced. And so that kind of kicked us off thinking that she would be pretty early, since I was already dilating. In addition to that, 2 days later, I lost my mucus plug for the first time. I believe there was 2 or 3 occasions where I lost my mucus plug. And since I had already been following a lot of mom YouTubers and watching a lot of pregnancy updates, I was already pretty aware that your mucus plug can be lost and then regrown, and so it's not necessarily a sign that labor is imminent, but you know, it's just kind of something that can happen towards the end of your pregnancy. But it was still kind of exciting having that happen, because that was a, you know, a real sign that things were, you know, wrapping up, things were starting to prepare for labor and delivery, and yeah, it was pretty exciting and kind of gross and weird. But anyways, that also started to make us really think that she was going to come pretty early. And at that point, I mean, we were ready, but we weren't, you know, like 100% ready. We would have made it if she had come that early, but we started kind of kicking things into high gear. Like, I think at that point I still had to wash all of her clothes and stuff and get all of that ready. There was still a bunch of work we needed to do in the nursery, and while she would be sleeping, or she is sleeping in our room, I still wanted the nursery to be finished before she got here. It was just my, you know, pregnant nesting mama needs. So we kind of kicked things into high gear at that point, thinking for sure she was gonna come early. And then on September 29th, so I believe that would have been 36 weeks and 6 days, a day before 37 weeks, my parents took us out to dinner kind of as, I don't know, you know, we wouldn't be able to go out to a nice meal for a while once we had a newborn, and so they just wanted to take us out and, you know, enjoy a nice dinner. And I actually had my first labor scare at that dinner. Like I said, Miles and I had been really kicking things into high gear, trying to get everything done and ready and prepared around the house for baby to come. And so all weekend we had been running around doing stuff, and I think I just really overworked my body, because once we got to dinner, I started having pretty frequent Braxton Hicks, and just like not feeling all that great, and I really thought I was going into labor because the Braxton Hicks were coming every couple of minutes. And then on the way home from dinner, they even started getting kind of more like period cramps. They moved lower and were more I would describe them as not, I mean, painful, but a pain-like sensation rather than just a tightening, which is what I experienced with Braxton Hicks. So yeah, that was the first labor scare where Miles and I, Miles is my husband if you are new around here, but we really thought that I was going into labor that night, but things kind of just stopped that evening. Once we got home from dinner, we were like running around because there was a ton, I think, I hadn't packed my hospital bag yet. There was still, I had collected everything on the dining room table, but I hadn't like packed it in the bag yet. And so I was kind of instructing Miles to pack things and, you know, grabbing last minute things that I hadn't collected from my hospital bag. I was telling him how to finish the laundry because I had, you know, we hadn't finished all of the laundry yet. So we were running around like crazy people, convinced that we were going to the hospital that night, and then it just stopped. And so that was a little embarrassing because we were like really thinking it was happening that night, but it didn't, and it didn't for another couple of weeks, but yeah, that was a little crazy. All right, and then on October 1st, I have written down that I started drinking raspberry leaf tea. It's supposed to help tone your uterus. Some women will drink like a lot of it towards the end of their pregnancy. I kind of meant to have a cup a day, but I honestly just never really got in the habit of it, so I only drank it a couple of times. On October 3rd, I lost more of my mucus plug. And then on October 6th, I had another false labor, and this again was on a Sunday evening, and so we're thinking that I was just kind of doing too much for where I was at in pregnancy. I felt so phenomenal during the last months of my pregnancy, and so I think I just kind of ended up pushing myself a little too far on the weekends when we were trying to get a bunch done because I felt so great, but you know, I was still 36, 37, 38, whatever weeks pregnant. And so I think that was just kind of my body telling me to slow down. And so after that second false alarm, I listened and I stopped kind of, you know, pushing myself and doing so much, and just, you know, even though I felt great, just taking it more easy and stuff. That second false labor was actually much more intense, and I actually did end up, like, the first one I was kind of still walking around the house and, you know, telling Miles what to do, like I was saying. The second one, I like totally ended up in my bedroom with the lights off, like my, you know, labor diffuser running, and with kind of meditation music, and I was actually breathing through the contractions at that point, using my up breathing from hypnobirthing, and the contractions were actually painful, and I kind of ended up just going to bed and trying to fall asleep thinking I was in labor, and that if I was able to fall asleep, that'd be great because I wanted to be as well rested as I could be for labor. But I was kind of convinced that I would wake up in full-blown labor and it would be go time, but I didn't. I woke up the next morning and it was completely gone. So yeah. I never thought that I would be one of those pregnant women that would have like a false labor experience. I kind of thought that I would, you know when it was go time, and I wouldn't be, you know, the pregnant lady who cried wolf. And luckily, I mean, I knew not to go to the hospital each time because, especially with my birth plan, I wanted to labor at home as much as possible. And so, yeah, but I still kind of felt a little silly every time the next morning, like, okay, I guess that wasn't it. And that also kind of led to when I actually went into labor, I kind of like, not didn't believe myself, but I was like, okay, is this really happening? Because I've felt like this a couple times before and nothing's happened. But yeah, anyways, those are my two true false labor stories. Okay, and then on October 10th, so I would have been 38 weeks pregnant, I went to my 38-week appointment with my midwife, and she did another cervical check, and at that point she said I was this was kind of funny. She said that I was 3 centimeters dilated at the top of my cervix, but only 1.5 at the other way around, 3 centimeters at the bottom, but only 1.5 centimeters at the top, and that it was like conical shaped. So yeah, that was kind of weird because especially at the next appointment, the OB had said that it doesn't really matter what it is at the bottom, that it's what's at the top that matters, which makes sense. But anyways, that's what she had told me, and I was still 50% effaced at that point, and she said my cervix was very soft, and so obviously my body was very much preparing for labor at that point. She did a very mini, quick membrane sweep, because at that point I was very unsure about what I was comfortable with in terms of like natural induction, I guess, and I was at that point very against it. I didn't want anything to kind of send me into labor. I wanted to let my body do what it was going to do naturally and just, you know, spontaneously go into labor, and I didn't want to force my body into something that it wasn't ready for yet. So she basically just did one sweep of the membrane, and that was it for that time. She also recommended at that point that I start using evening primrose oil vaginally, I guess is the only way to say it. If you're watching this, I mean, obviously, again, pregnancy update, might be TMI for some people, but I don't really care. She also did recommend that I start taking castor oil internally. That I did actually opt out of. I started using primrose oil, but I didn't use the castor oil. I just wasn't really comfortable with it, especially after hearing Kira from OK Baby talk about her experience with doing the witch's brew. And I know that that is very different. I think you take like a much larger amount of castor oil than my midwife was recommending, but I was still kind of scared about hearing how horrible her experience was with labor after using castor oil, so I just stayed away from that. And again, like I said, I really didn't want to be doing anything that would trigger labor. I just wanted to be doing things that would help my body naturally prepare itself for what it would do naturally. So yeah, I used the evening primrose oil to help ripen and soften my cervix, and I was doing about, I forget what the amounts were, but I was doing 1 pill nightly, I think, and then at 39 weeks I bumped it up to 2 pills, if I remember correctly. And then on October 16th, I had my final OB appointment. I was, what would I have been? I would have been 39 weeks pregnant, and at that point I was 2 centimeters dilated, and I'm not sure how phased I was. I don't think she told me at that appointment. I did actually opt to do a membrane sweep at that time, and I went into this a little bit, I believe, in one of my vlogs, but at that point I was a little concerned about who would be delivering me, because I got the on-call schedule for the next couple of weeks, and first of all, my midwife wasn't going to be on call at all in the next couple of weeks, and this is something that I had known since the beginning of going to see her. She let me know that she would be unavailable around my due date to deliver, and so that I already had known. However, even the 2 other OBs in our office weren't scheduled to be on call as much as the OBs at their sister office, which they kind of like coordinate their on-call schedule with. So I was a little nervous that I would end up being delivered by someone that I had never met before. And so I decided to go ahead and be okay with a single membrane sweep. And again, it's said that you won't go into labor after a membrane sweep unless your body is already ready for labor. And so that's why I decided to just go ahead and go for it. And so I had my OB do a membrane sweep at that 38-week appointment, or 39-week appointment, sorry. And after that, I kind of did just decide to go full-blown for one night only. All of the natural induction methods that I felt comfortable with, kind of doing that and seeing if I could trigger myself into labor, because that, I believe the next day and the next night were the only days that one of my OBs would be on call until like a week later. So I really wanted to go into labor that night so that I could be delivered by them. And again, I am a person who very much likes to be in control and to know what to expect. And so obviously labor is already something that you cannot control and you cannot know what is going to happen. And so I really wanted to have an OB that I knew deliver me, just to kind of have one thing I could have a little bit of peace of mind knowing what to expect with. So that's why this was so important to me. And again, I was 39 weeks pregnant, and I think a little bit of the hormones and emotionalness of being super pregnant was played into my decision here, because at the end of the day, the doctor is basically with you for 5 minutes while you're pushing. The rest of the time you're just with the labor and delivery nurses while you're, laboring. So it wouldn't have been a huge deal, but it was a huge deal to me when I was 39 weeks pregnant. So anyways, after my appointment, Miles and I walked around Target. Just kind of, again, walking can help move things along, and so we just kind of wandered around the aisles. We love, obviously, window shopping at Target as well, so that was just, what we decided to do. I did get one pretty big contraction in the beauty aisle, and this was actually at the point where Miles had left me to go to the bathroom, and so I was just standing by myself with the cart, this huge pregnant woman in the middle of Target, and I was trying not to, like, you know, be that person having a contraction like in public, and I didn't want to like freak out everyone else around me, so I was trying to just stand there and not look like I was in extreme amounts of pain. Well, what I had thought at the time was extreme amounts of pain. Little did I know it can get much worse. But yeah, I just kind of had that single really strong contraction that probably lasted a good minute and a half, I would say. And yeah, so that was super fun. And then when we got home, I, like I said, kind of went full blown into the natural induction methods that I felt comfortable using. I bounced on my labor ball a bunch to kind of help move the baby's head down into, you know, an engaged position. And at this point, I forgot to mention, at the 36-week growth sonogram, she was confirmed to be head down, and at every cervical check, they were checking to make sure that she still was head down, and she was, so that was never really a concern for me, luckily. I had been pretty nervous about that, but yeah, I just kind of went along the lines of trusting my body and trusting my baby, and she moved into position perfectly. But yeah, anyways, and again, sorry, I feel like I'm really rushing through this update, but like I said in the beginning, I'm really just trying to get this filmed for you guys while she is asleep and happy. And I also have her 1 month update that I'm hoping to get filmed today. So if I'm kind of rushing through this video, I'm sorry. I just really want to get this information shared with you guys, and this is how I can do it. So anyways, I also went, I walked the stairs in my house a bunch with my husband. Again, just kind of trying to walk and get things moving. We did ankle and palm massages, so there are a couple acupressure points that are supposed to send you into labor. I had my husband massage my ankles at that point, or at that spot on my ankles, and while he was doing that, I was kind of rubbing my palms. You're supposed to rub in the center of your palm, I believe. When you make a fist, it's where your middle finger touches, is where you're supposed to massage. That's what I read. In addition to that, the webbing between your thumb and forefinger is supposed to be another point that can trigger labor. And so while he was working on my ankles, I was working on my palms and on my hands. And we were also using clary sage a bunch. So we were massaging that on both my ankles and my belly. And clary sage, if you don't know, is an essential oil that is supposed to, naturally induce labor if your body is ready, and it's also supposed to be a great support for your uterus. And so once you're in labor, you can use it to make your contractions more efficient. So ideally you have a shorter and easier labor. So yeah, we were using that to try to naturally induce. We also used evening primrose oil again. I had some red raspberry leaf tea, and I'm pretty sure that's all that we did that evening to try and induce labor. We went to bed, and I woke up at 4:30 the next morning in labor. So who knows if it was the membrane sweep, if it was any of my natural labor induction techniques, if all of it combined sent me into labor, or if I was just gonna go into labor that morning no matter what we did. But I was very happy to go into labor. I was very ready, and like I said, I actually did predict her birthday would be on the 18th. I'm not going to go into my full labor story because I do plan on filming another video for that, but yeah, that is my final pregnancy update. And like I said, my pregnancy started out very, very rocky, and it just kind of got better as things went on. So the last month, everyone kept saying to me like, oh, you must be so ready to be done. Are you ready for baby to be here yet? You must be so uncomfortable. And honestly, it was just, I wasn't. I was still so comfortable. I didn't have any problems sleeping, up until I had her. I feel very, very lucky, but I also feel like I kind of, paid my dues in the first trimester. And so I was just thoroughly enjoying feeling comfortable and happy and energetic right up until the end of my pregnancy. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I think that wraps things up for my final pregnancy update. I hope you guys enjoyed following along with my entire pregnancy. I know I loved sharing it with you, and I'm so happy that I have these updates to look back on. Like I said, I have a bunch more baby and motherhood related videos that I have planned to be filmed in the upcoming weeks and to share with you guys here, so be sure to subscribe if that is something that you would like to see from me. In addition, I have been vlogging a ton since Stella was born and has come home and joined our family, so be sure to check out my vlog channel if you would like to see my precious baby girl. And I have also been sharing a ton of pictures of her over on Instagram. She is just the most precious thing I have ever seen, so you can follow me over there at Merrit Daily. And yeah, I think that wraps things up for this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it and give it a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!